What's up, YouTube? It's time for a review of the new Brother Ali record, All the Beauty in This Whole Life, out last Friday, May 5th. Brother Ali, if you aren't familiar, indie hip-hop legend out of Minneapolis, one of the most recognizable and integral components to Atmosphere's Rhymesayers record label and collective. To me, he's kind of synonymous with that brand. He's very distinctive, though, and not just because he was born with albinism, he's legally blind, and he's a practicing Muslim, but more importantly, because he's one of the most complete MCs that I've ever heard. He's got a great ear for hooks, he's got content and something to say, he's got bars and technical ability out the wazoo, his production is on point, a bulk of it actually being produced by Ant from Atmosphere. He's got catalog with almost 20 years of great music, and him being such a down-to-earth, inspiring guy doesn't exactly hurt any of this either. Brother Ali is definitely one of those underrated MCs that brings out my frustration and almost sympathy for some hip-hop listeners. Because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, you guys think that Hobson and Logic are nice, but you haven't dug into Brother Ali's catalog? And that's not to be snobby, because Lord knows there's so much amazing hip-hop music that I have yet to hear and yet to discover. But I'm just like, come on, guys, get your shit together. It's for your benefit. But such is the nature of being a bit more underground of an artist. It's just going to take the average listener a bit longer to get their shit together. It was no different for me. The only reason I actually originally heard Ali was because of Immortal Technique, who put out a project called The Martyr in 2011. And there was a song on there called Civil War with Killer Mike, Chuck D, Brother Ali, and Immortal Technique. And Ali closes out the track with an amazing verse where, as a practicing Muslim himself, he gives the Muslim perspective on 9/11 and the Islamophobia that followed. And I was just immediately intrigued by this guy, Brother Ali. So then I went backwards and found what is probably his best and I'd say most well-known album, The Undisputed Truth. And there you have it. So this new record, All the Beauty in This Whole Life, is Ali's first studio album in almost 5 years. And one of the singles he put out to tease it was Own Light What Hearts Are For, which is a track that just fucking blew me away. It's one of the most uplifting hip-hop songs that I've ever heard. I love everything about this song, whether it's Ant's colorful production, which he actually produced the entirety of this album. The beat on this song features this ultra-catchy, bouncy guitar lick that's just genius. Some dreamy bells, a melodic bass line, a real snappy drum kit. I love Brother Ali's flow on this song, particularly in the second half of the first verse, where he's maintaining this very precise emphasis on pairs of eighth note syllables. Hungry, needing groceries, getting no sleep till my nosebleed. I just really dig that flow. Lyrically, he touches on a lot of different things with this song, but my main takeaway is actually an uplifting theme of gratitude. In the chorus, he's thanking God for all these different things, for healing, for building, for listening, and most importantly, for living. And it's almost like a defiant gratitude, because the verses touch on all these sources of negative energy, but it's almost like he's just like, nah, despite all this, I'm going to be my own source of positive energy. This might just be a projection of my own personal headspace at the moment, but like, you ain't got to get me lit. That feels to me like an allusion to alcohol and substances, because it feels like he's turning the popular phrase of getting lit on its head, basically saying that if you can be your own source of light and of positive energy, you don't need those things. You don't need vices. Though in all fairness, that could just be how I'm interpreting it, because personally, I've made it a point in the last year to cut booze out of my life almost entirely. So that could just be what it means to me. And I know it sounds so corny, but the chorus to this song really does make me think of all the beauty in this whole life. Like seriously, when I listen to this song, it creates a blissful montage in my head of either my happiest memories, maybe happy outcomes to current struggles. It makes me start thinking about the people in my life that I need to appreciate more. I don't know what it is, man. It's just so inspiring and uplifting. It's just an incredible song. Thankfully, the greatness of this record only begins with Own Light. This is an album that moves me every step of the way. I'm sure a lot's going to be made of the track Pray For Me, which discusses Ali's childhood struggles with albinism in the most heart-wrenching details. He talks about being 8 years old and having a classmate think that he looks the way he does because they think he has AIDS, and somehow AIDS stuck as a nickname. And the way he describes how these struggles made him feel just brings a tear to my eye. He says, I felt like I lost a cosmic lottery. I was waiting for the ground to open up and swallow me. I felt like I had a gut full of razor blades. This is definitely one of the songs that will have an immediate impact on you for sure. And speaking of color and skin tone, aside from Brother Ali's personal struggles with albinism, elsewhere this LP is rich with thought-provoking racial themes. Take a track like Dear Black Sun, for instance, which is another tearjerker, in which Ali addresses what could be his own son, Fahim, or it could just be any hypothetical conversation between a parent and their black child. In this song, he's basically relaying to his son the harsh realities of modern-day race relations, but encouraging him to rise above them, assuring him that you don't have to answer for what happens in their minds. Other people's prejudice does not have to define you. It's really a pep talk of sorts, but then as the song progresses, Ali's own anxiety about trying to raise his child in this fucked up world starts to show. But what's fascinating about this track is that it does deal with a very specific racial, sociocultural context, but it captures something that's universal about parenting, which is that perpetual fear of not having enough time with your child and not having enough time to impart your wisdom and raise them right. So on one hand, it deals with a very particular issue, but on the other hand, it's about the struggles of being a parent. Before They Called You White is another racially charged song that deals with the historical context of whiteness and how it's practically an invention that changed the way a whole group of the world acted and felt about themselves. It's structured like just one long verse and then a refrain at the end about self-awareness. Really interesting track, if you ask me. It really calls into question the whole abstract idea of race. Because, whiteness can mean so many different parts of the world, and blackness, brownness, whatever we've reduced it to at this point, can mean so many different things. Yet we've basically condensed humanity into 2 or 3 colors. Colors that symbolize unequal treatment of each other. It really makes you just think about this shit. Brother Ali isn't just fixated on race with this record, though. He casts a pretty wide net in terms of stimulating subject matter. The guy always has something interesting to say on here, and that's a big chunk of why I'm so into this record. One of my favorite tracks is the Bitten Apple. This one deals with the commodification of sexuality and people's increasing addiction to it and desensitization to it, partly as a result of technology. You could probably look at this song as a broader commentary, but I read the lyrics like they're exclusively about porn. That's what I draw out of this, especially when he says things like, intimately profound ecstasy that gives life, sex, is stripped of all its meaning. And he goes on to label laptops and phones and any other device as portals to your inner battle. It's disturbing how profound this is. I personally think that the ramifications of the internet porn explosion haven't even revealed themselves yet, especially the long-term ones. We really don't know what this big change in the way we consume sexuality has done to us. This song is an ugly nosedive into a topic that I don't like to think about. Because in many ways, porn has completely rewired the way we view intimacy and each other and ourselves. And believe me, this isn't some sort of righteous rant. I am just as involved as any of you, but it's definitely something I worry about sometimes. I should also mention that this track comes together so nicely, in part due to a wonderful, soulful hook from Idris Phillips. Meanwhile, we've got another very personal track for Ali with the song Out of Here, which deals with the suicides of his father and his grandfather. I gotta say that Ant's production on this song plays a big role in making it as impactful as it is, because the piano on this song has such an intimate humanness to it. And I thought the decision to leave out drums in the first verse was brilliant, because it allows Ali to just flow like he's talking directly to his father over just the piano and some strummed clean guitars. In Out of Here, Ali's grappling with the uncertainty of his own future, as well as something that's pretty typical for suicide survivors, which is that feeling of abandonment and anger towards the person who died. He says to his father, "I'm trying not to resent you, but you left me defenseless in this life we share." The part of this song that's the most emotionally impactful for me is in the second verse, where Ali starts talking about those long seconds that happen as you watch your life end. He compares it to when you get into a car crash, you watch your life flash before your eyes, and the seconds just feel like minutes. He wonders to himself, Do people who commit suicide have regrets and second thoughts during those long seconds that occur as they commit the act? Or he entertains the thought that perhaps he just hasn't accepted that life really was too painful for these people to live through. Even though it is the content of what Brother Ali is saying on this album that most engages me, I should also get across that I just love his MCing on here. The opening track, Pen to Paper, is a moment where he gets to showcase a lot of technical skill. I love how he rides that 1 3-syllable rhyme scheme for like 7 straight bars, all the way from Reagan time to Spray This Rhyme. Ali's got a sick flow on Never Learn. Ant's beat has this kind of slow, steady sway to it, and Ali is really able to get in the cracks there with some clever rhythms. I just love the way the guy raps, man. And lastly, Ant's production on here is phenomenal. Some highlights for me include the heavenly instrumental on the title track, as well as the beat on Tremble, which has so much going on, but I think my favorite part of it is that stop, start, pound of the 8th note bass drums, probably just because it reminds me of metal. As expected, these beats have a ton of focus on instruments, and those instruments could be electric guitars, they could be piano, they could be harmonica, like on the song The Bitten Apple. I also think that Ant really achieved some crisp drum sounds on this album. Specifically, I love the snare on the song Dear Black Sun. Ali might have brought some really incredible rhymes, but he had a great sonic template as well. All in all, this album is a profoundly moving experience for me. All I have to say is thank you, Brother Ali. This is a fucking inspiring record. This record yanks at your every emotion, yet ultimately leaves you feeling hopeful, feeling optimistic, feeling grateful for your life and everyone in it. The content is what makes it special for me, but there's also great bars, great beats, great hooks. For my taste in hip-hop, this album has everything for me, and it's likely to be one of my favorite albums of the entire year. All the Beauty in This Whole Life gets a 9 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music, and I'll see you guys soon.